Imagine this. You're at a restaurant with your wife, trying not to shatter what's already halfway broken. It's a perfect evening, and you're holding on to hope that maybe, just maybe, things can still be okay. Then, some guy walks up to your table and asks your wife to dance. You tell him she's married, but she gets up and goes with him anyway, right in front of you. No hesitation. You're stunned. Just sitting there, feeling the world shift. Curtain falls. That's exactly what happened to me. And believe me, how I handled it, how I took back control of my life, will surprise you. Watch until the end, and you'll understand who my wife truly was. And she wasn't the person she claimed to be. My name's Ryan Fremont. I'm 39 years old, a software consultant. Not the flashiest job, but it pays the bills and then some. I've worked my way up over the years, put in the hours, done the late nights, chased clients when I needed to. My wife, Lena, she's 36. She's an interior designer. Talented too. She's got an eye for colors and layouts and all that stuff I'll never understand. We've been married a little over 10 years. Got a house in the suburbs with a wide porch. And our daughter, Emma, she's 9. Bright as hell, sweet as sugar. She's everything to me. If I had to describe my life in one word a year ago, I would have said settled. And I meant that in a good way. I liked coming home to the same driveway, the same warm lights in the window, the sound of Emma's laugh echoing through the house, and the smell of whatever Lena had going in the kitchen. It wasn't some grand fairy tale, but it was real. It was home. At least it used to be. I'm not a perfect man. I've never claimed to be. I can be short when I've had a long day. I like quiet sometimes when Lena wants to talk. I stress about money even though we're doing fine. We've got savings, no debt besides the mortgage, 2 decent cars, and everything Emma needs. I've always just been wired to worry, you know? Grew up that way. My dad used to say, hope for the best, plan for the worst, and that sort of stuck. So no, I'm not perfect. But I never stopped trying. I always thought marriage was about effort. Show up, every day, even when it's hard. That's what I did. Or tried to. But a few months back, something shifted. It wasn't sudden, more like a slow drift. At first, it was little things. Lena stopped asking me how my day was. She started keeping her phone face down. She'd shrug me off when I leaned in for a hug. I figured she was tired. Work had been crazy for her, new clients, long days, design deadlines. So I didn't press. I let it slide. Told myself it would pass, but it didn't pass. She started acting like I was in her way. If I asked her to pick something up for dinner, I'd get this sigh, like I just asked her to move a mountain. If I mentioned we hadn't spent much time together lately, she'd say, well, whose fault is that? With this bitter little chuckle. It was like everything I did annoyed her. Even when I tried to be kind, it just bounced off her like she had armor on. She stopped laughing with me. We used to have this thing where we'd lay in bed and share dumb jokes, talk about the day, make plans for the weekend. Now? Nothing. Just silence. Her back to me, scrolling on her phone. I'd ask what she was looking at and get a flat, nothing, or just Pinterest. I missed her. That's what killed me. She was right there, in the same room, in the same bed, but it felt like she was on the other side of the world. I started dreading coming home. Not because I didn't love her, but because I couldn't take the tension, the way she looked past me like I wasn't even there. Like I'd become some worn-out piece of furniture in the background of her life. And it wasn't just coldness, it was moodiness, too. She'd snap at me over dishes, roll her eyes if I offered to help with something. I started walking on eggshells, trying not to say the wrong thing, trying to keep peace for Emma's sake. Sometimes Lena would go a whole day without speaking more than a sentence or two to me. But if I brought it up, suddenly I was the problem. You're imagining things, she'd say. Or worse, stop making everything about you. We stopped doing the little things. No date nights. No game nights. No Sunday morning coffee on the patio. I still tried. I'd ask her to go out to dinner, and she'd say she was too tired. I'd suggest watching a movie together, and she'd sit on her phone the whole time. At some point, I started going to bed before her just so I wouldn't lie there alone while she scrolled and ignored me. Max, our dog, seemed to feel it too. He started curling up at my feet instead of hers. Animals know. They always know. I'd like to say I confronted her right then. That I sat her down and demanded answers. But I didn't. I was scared. Not of her, but of what she might say. Of what I already feared deep down. I didn't want to hear it. I wanted to fix it. I kept telling myself this was just a phase. That she'd snap out of it. That maybe I'd been distant too, and this was all just a rough patch. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was already losing her. And the worst part? I still loved her, even when she made me feel invisible. Even when she acted like she couldn't stand the sight of me. Even when I caught her in little lies, like saying she was at Target when I noticed the bag was from some boutique. I didn't call her out. I didn't want to fight. I just kept hoping things would go back to normal, but they didn't. And deep down, I think I knew something was already broken. I kept thinking it was just a rough patch. That's what I told myself. Every relationship goes through ups and downs, right? People get busy, life piles on, and sometimes you just drift for a while before you find your way back. So I did what I thought was right. I tried to bring us back. I made reservations at that little Italian place she used to love, the one with the handwritten menus and candles on the tables. We hadn't been there in years, but she used to say it made her feel like we were dating again. I showed up with flowers, held the car door for her, even wore that dumb shirt she liked that I always felt looked too tight. She barely touched her pasta. Spent most of the night staring at her phone, texting under the table. Said it was work stuff. When we got home, she thanked me like I was a waiter and went to the bedroom alone. I booked us a weekend trip too. Just the two of us. Emma would stay with my sister. I found this little cabin by the lake, quiet, peaceful, far from everything. She said she had too much going on, couldn't miss work. Said the timing was off. I tried moving the dates. She said maybe next month. There was always some reason. Then I asked her to come with me to therapy. Not couples counseling, just to sit in for a session with someone I'd started seeing. I figured maybe hearing each other out in a neutral space could help. She told me I was making a big deal out of nothing. That if I was the one struggling, I should go to therapy. That she didn't need to sit in a circle and cry about feelings. It felt like she didn't even want to try. At first, I tried giving her the benefit of the doubt. I asked her if everything was okay more than once. She'd wave me off and say, "I'm just tired, Ryan. Let it go." Or, "Not now, okay? I've got a lot on my mind." It wasn't just her words that stung, it was the way she said them. Like my concern was a nuisance. Then there were the new clothes. Nothing crazy, just little changes. Trendier tops, tighter jeans. A new perfume I hadn't smelled before. At first, I thought maybe she was just treating herself, and if so, good for her. But when I commented on it, said she looked nice, she brushed it off or acted annoyed. One night, she walked out of the house in heels I hadn't seen in years. Said she had a late meeting with a new client. No name, no details. She started putting on makeup again too. Lena always used to wear a little, but this was different. Lipstick, contour, that glowy stuff she didn't even bother with for date nights anymore. And always before these mysterious evening meetings. I joked once, someone trying to impress the new client? She didn't laugh. Just said, "Don't be weird." Then came the phone. It was like it became an extension of her hand. She'd flip it over the second I walked in the room. Password changed. Notifications silenced. If I glanced in her direction while she was texting, she'd shift her body like I was invading her privacy. I remember once she left it on the counter while grabbing something from the garage. It buzzed. I didn't even touch it, just looked at the screen. She came in and snapped, "Why are you snooping?" I wasn't. I really wasn't. But the worst, the thing that made my stomach knot up tighter than it ever had, was the showers. She used to come home, change into her comfy clothes, and we'd talk about our days. But then, she started showering the moment she got back, even if it was already late. I'd ask, "Everything okay?" And she'd say, "I just felt gross after work." Sometimes she'd already be out of the shower by the time I even realized she was home. It didn't make sense. She never used to do that. What kind of person needs to wash off the day before they even say hello? It got to a point where I couldn't tell if I was losing my mind or if she was just really good at lying. Maybe both. I didn't want to believe anything bad was happening. I still wanted to see the best in her. I told myself I was being sensitive. I told myself I was just insecure. That maybe I was projecting my own fears. That I needed to give her space and stop being so suspicious. But late at night, when the house was quiet and she was asleep beside me with her back turned, I stared at the ceiling and wondered if I was missing something obvious. If this was already slipping through my fingers. If I was blind to something everyone else could see. I kept telling myself I was just imagining it. But the truth was, something didn't feel right. Not at all. And I ignored that feeling for way too long. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who starts poking around behind his wife's back, trying to catch her in a lie. That wasn't me. At least, I didn't think it was. But there comes a point where you stop accepting half answers and gut feelings, and you start needing proof. Not because you want to find something, but because you're tired of feeling crazy. Emma was staying over at her friend Riley's house that weekend. Lena was working late, or so she said. I was pacing around the living room, heart thumping for no reason I could explain. Then I remembered the old security camera I boxed up in the garage. It wasn't anything fancy, just a little wired camera I'd used years ago when I set up a cheap home system. So I set it up. Nothing major. Just one camera, hidden under the corner eave of the garage, angled toward the driveway. I made sure it blended in with the siding. Lena wouldn't notice. I told myself I just wanted to ease my own mind. That was it. Not accuse. Not attack. Just observe. For 2 full weeks, I saw nothing. Every time the footage triggered, it was either me leaving for work, Lena pulling out, Emma riding her bike, or Max barking at a squirrel. A few times Lena came home midday, sometimes left again shortly after. A couple grocery runs. A walk with a neighbor. But nothing I could point to. Just normal movement. Still, there were small things. Once, she told me she'd been home all day. I saw her leave twice. Quick trips. Maybe nothing. But the fact that she said she hadn't gone anywhere gnawed at me. I wanted to ask, why lie? But I didn't. I kept watching. And then a silver Audi appeared. It was Tuesday. I was working in the office. At around 11:30, I received a notification about movement. I thought it was a delivery, maybe the gardener. But curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the live feed on the camera app. There was a silver Audi A4, clean, with tinted windows and shiny rims, a car I had never seen in the neighborhood before. It slowly pulled into the driveway as if it belonged there. It stood there for a minute. Then Lena came out of the front door. She didn't have a briefcase or laptop bag, just her phone and keys. She got into the passenger seat. They sat there for a moment. Then the car pulled out and drove away. I froze. It wasn't just that she had left. It was that she had said she would be home all day. That she hadn't mentioned a meeting with a client. That she had left as if it were the most normal thing in the world. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was work. Maybe someone from the design firm picked her up. Maybe it was nothing. So I called her. No answer. 20 minutes later, she called back. Hey, what's up? She said, casual. Where are you? Oh, I'm just out running some errands, she said quickly. I stopped by Target. Need anything? No, just wondering. I didn't say anything else. I couldn't. My mouth felt dry, my heart in my throat. We hung up. I sat there staring at the footage on repeat, that silver Audi pulling away, Lena sliding into the seat like it was the most natural thing in the world. That night, I waited. Waited for the right moment to bring it up without making it sound like I was accusing her of something I wasn't ready to name. After dinner, Emma went upstairs to do homework. Lena was scrolling on her phone, sitting on the couch. I pulled up the photo I'd grabbed from the footage and held it up. Hey, who's this? She glanced at the phone. Didn't flinch. That? Oh my God, Ryan. Seriously? Are you spying on me now? You need help. Her tone was cold, almost amused. I just noticed a car I didn't recognize, I said, trying to stay calm. You said you were home. She rolled her eyes. It's my client's car. We were looking at paint samples. We stopped by to grab a few swatches. He picked me up because we were going across town. Is that a crime? I didn't answer right away. I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't flustered. She was defensive, dismissive, like I was an annoyance. You could have told me. I don't have to report every second of my day, Ryan, she said, getting up from the couch. God, you're being ridiculous. She left the room without looking back. I sat there with the phone still in my hand, the image frozen on the screen. I wanted to believe her. Our anniversary was coming up. 12 years. I kept thinking maybe this could be a turning point. Something to shake us out of whatever fog we'd fallen into. I figured if I put in the effort, really went all out, it might remind her who we used to be. What we still could be. I made a reservation at her favorite place downtown. The one with the white tablecloths, the candlelight, the over-the-top wine list with names I can't pronounce. We hadn't been there in years, not since Emma was little. I wanted to make the night feel special again, like it used to. I found a sitter through a neighbor, trustworthy woman, older, had watched Emma once before. Lena didn't offer much of a reaction when I told her I'd made plans. Just said, okay, and went back to whatever she was doing on her laptop. When I saw her come downstairs, my heart actually skipped. She looked stunning. Dark green dress I hadn't seen before, curled hair, that lipstick she wore back when we were dating. She looked like a movie star. And for a moment, I felt hopeful. She didn't compliment me, but she smiled. We rode downtown mostly in silence. but it wasn't the heavy silence like before. It was more calm, almost peaceful. When we got to the restaurant, she took my arm as we walked in. That one small gesture nearly made my chest crack open. I thought, she's still here. She hasn't given up. Dinner went better than I expected. She was relaxed, even a little playful. Told me about a weird client she had. Made a few jokes. I asked about her design projects and she actually answered. She laughed at something I said, genuinely laughed. Not that dry, dismissive laugh she'd been using for months. When the waiter brought dessert, she even reached across the table and held my hand for a few seconds. Her fingers were warm, soft. I felt like a teenager again. After dinner, I suggested we grab a drink before heading home. She agreed, said she knew a place nearby with live music. We walked a couple blocks to a lounge tucked into a brick building, moody lighting, jazz trio in the corner, and a bar that looked like it came from a black and white film. It was perfect. We found a quiet table against the wall, ordered 2 drinks. She sat with her legs crossed, smiling at the band, tapping her fingers on the rim of her glass. I thought maybe we had turned a corner. Maybe everything I'd been doubting was just in my head. Maybe she was finally coming back to me. Then she got up and said she needed to use the restroom. As she crossed the room, I watched her, not in a possessive way, just proud. She looked incredible, graceful, confident. But as she passed the bar, I noticed a man watching her. Tall, dark hair, tan skin, sharp jawline, designer suit. He looked like he belonged in an ad for expensive watches. He didn't take his eyes off her as she walked past. And she saw him too. And she smiled. Not a polite smile. Not an awkward, excuse me kind of smile. It was soft. Familiar. A smile you give someone you've seen before. Someone you want to see again. I froze. My gut twisted right then and there. The band faded into background noise. The air in the room got heavy. She disappeared into the restroom, and the guy stayed where he was, sipping something dark in a lowball glass. Eyes still pointed toward where she'd gone. When she came back, I waited. She sat down like nothing happened, took a sip from her drink, adjusted her dress, leaned on the table like she was relaxed. I looked her in the eye and asked, "Do you know that guy?" She blinked. "What guy?" "The one at the bar. The one you just smiled at on your way to the restroom." She paused, barely, then rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on. Don't make me laugh." I didn't laugh. "Seriously, Ryan. You're reading into everything." I smiled at a guy. Big deal. She went back to her drink. No apology. No explanation. Just brushed it off like I was some overbearing stranger jealous for no reason. I tried to let it go. I really did. I told myself, maybe she was just being polite. Maybe I was seeing things that weren't there. Maybe I was ruining a night that was supposed to help us reconnect. But I couldn't ignore the way she smiled. I couldn't ignore the way he looked at her. I sat back in my chair, trying to enjoy the music, trying to act normal, but my hands felt clammy and my head was spinning. The room felt smaller, hotter. I looked over at her, hoping she might meet my eyes. Say something reassuring. Anything. But she just watched the band and tapped her fingers, same as before. Like nothing had happened at all. We sat there for a while after that moment. I was trying to shake the feeling, trying to breathe through it, and act like it hadn't happened. I stared at the candle on the table, watched the wax slowly melting over the holder. She hummed along to the music like nothing had happened. Then, not 5 minutes later, the guy from the bar stood up and started walking toward us. I watched him, hoping he was headed to the bartender or maybe the restroom. But no, he came right to our table. He didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge me in the slightest. Just leaned a bit toward Lena and said, real smooth, "Mind if I steal you for a dance?" My heart started pounding. I waited for Lena to laugh him off, to tell him she was here with her husband, to shut it down the way I knew she should. But she didn't. Before I could say a word, I blurted, "She's married." He turned just slightly, just enough to glance at me like I was an obstacle, and then shrugged. "I was asking her," he said, with a tone that made my blood boil. "And Lena?" She turned to me like I was the one being rude. "Ryan, stop being so jealous. It's just a dance." A dance? After everything? After the distance, the lying, the way she smiled at him across the room like they shared some private joke? I looked her dead in the eye and said, calm but cold, "I swear to God, Lena, if you dance with him, it's over between us." She didn't blink, didn't flinch. Then she stood up, took his hand, and walked with him to the dance floor. I couldn't believe it. She didn't even hesitate. She just left me sitting there like I was a stranger. Like I didn't matter. Like the last 12 years meant nothing. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds, stunned, heart racing. I watched them walk away, her hand in his, her heels clicking softly on the wood floor. The candle between us flickered. Then I got up. Didn't finish my drink. Didn't look back. I walked out of the lounge, the music trailing behind me as the door shut. The air outside was cool, crisp, and I stood there for a second just trying to make sense of what had just happened. I couldn't. My hands were shaking, not from anger, not yet, but from heartbreak. I got in the car. I didn't even know where I was going. I drove. The inside of the car was dead silent except for the occasional buzz of my phone. I didn't look at it. I just drove, aimless, until I ended up outside a cheap motel just off the highway. I checked in under my name, no luggage, just the clothes I had on. The woman at the front desk barely looked at me, gave me a key and pointed toward the end of the building. The room was ugly, beige walls, old carpet, humming mini fridge. But it had a bed and a door I could shut behind me. I sat there, staring at the wall, coat still on, wondering how he got here. I played it over and over in my head. The dinner, the jazz, the way she looked when she got up to go with him. Like it was nothing. Like I hadn't just begged her to choose us. Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed again. It was a text from her. "Where are you?" That was all it said. No apology. No explanation. Just that question. I stared at it for a while, then typed out what I'd been holding in my chest all night. "Pack your things. Don't be home when I get back." I hit send. Then I turned the phone off, put it face down on the nightstand, and laid back on the bed fully dressed. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the ceiling, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. I wasn't even angry yet. That came later. I didn't get a minute of rest that night. At around 6:45 a.m., I got up, splashed some water on my face, and drove straight home. I didn't knock. I had my keys, and it was still my house. Lena was there. She hadn't packed a thing. She was sitting at the kitchen counter in her robe, cup of coffee in hand, acting like nothing had happened. She didn't look surprised to see me. "Ryan, we need to talk." I looked right at her and said, "I already did what I needed to do." "What does that mean?" she asked, setting the mug down. "I'm filing for divorce." She laughed, this dry, humorless thing. "You're being dramatic. It was a dance, Ryan. One stupid dance. You're going to destroy our family over that." I didn't respond. I just walked upstairs, packed a small bag, and left again. By 9 a.m., I was sitting in the office of a divorce attorney, signing papers and explaining the night in as few words as possible. I didn't even want to hear myself say it out loud. I just wanted it done. I didn't need more evidence. I'd seen enough. Her face when she got up to go dance with that guy, that was all I needed to remember. She chose him. She knew what it meant when I said not to. And she did it anyway. There wasn't any begging after that. No grand gesture. No apology. She texted once. "Can we at least talk about this before you make it official?" I didn't answer. She tried to paint the picture a little differently in court. She told the judge I had been distant for months. Said I withdrew, emotionally, and made her feel like she was just a roommate. That I didn't compliment her, didn't show appreciation. She even said she thought I might be seeing someone else. It took everything in me not to laugh. The irony was brutal. She'd been checked out for months. Long before that night. It was like she'd already moved out in her mind. She just hadn't told me yet. She was cold. Dismissive. Half the time she treated me like a coworker she barely tolerated. She said I pushed her away. No, she just stopped caring. I wasn't going to play dirty in court. I didn't show the footage from the camera. I didn't go into detail about what happened at the lounge. I let the lawyers do their jobs. I just told the truth when I was asked and kept it simple. I wasn't out to destroy her. I just didn't want to live in a lie anymore. Emma took it harder than anyone. She's a smart kid, and no matter how gentle we tried to be, she could feel it. We sat her down together. Lena did most of the talking, which felt wrong, but I let her. She used words like taking space and still a family in different ways. Emma didn't cry in front of us. She nodded, looked down, and said okay. But later, when it was just me and her at home, she asked, "Is it because Mommy doesn't love you anymore?" I almost lost it. I told her, sometimes people stop being kind to each other. And when that happens, it's not good for anybody. But that doesn't mean we don't love you. That'll never change. I never badmouthed Lena. Not once. I kept it together for Emma. But kids know. They always know. She saw the coldness. She saw the way we barely talked anymore. She knew something had been wrong for a long time. The court granted us joint custody. Week on, week off. It made sense. Lena got an apartment about 10 minutes away, some modern place with fake wood floors and all-white furniture. Emma said it felt like a hotel. She was being polite. I kept the house. Not because I fought for it, but because I think Lena didn't want it. Too many memories. Too much routine. Too much of me, maybe. I wasn't going to argue. Emma needed a stable place. She had her room, her tree house in the backyard, Max sleeping at the foot of her bed. At least that didn't change. Lena came by a few times to grab things. She boxed up her side of the closet and left my suits hanging untouched. She took most of the books, some dishes, and every single photo of us from the early years. She didn't say much. I didn't ask anything. That first night after everything was final, I sat on the porch with Max at my feet, just listening to the wind. The house was quiet, not in a peaceful way, but in a way that reminded me something big had just ended. I wasn't angry anymore. Not yet. I was just tired. Tired of holding it all in. Tired of trying to hold it all together. I didn't know what came next. Several weeks passed after the trial. I tried to get back to normal, or at least something that resembled it. I focused on work. I took Emma to school, packed her lunches, walked Max every morning, cleaned the gutters, organized the garage, all those things that normally just filled time. They didn't feel like routines anymore. They felt like distractions. I was trying to stay upright that I didn't talk to Lena unless it was about Emma. Pickup times, school schedules, piano lessons. We kept it civil. Short. She was still living in that shiny little apartment complex, just. I dropped Emma off there every other Friday. Lena would wave from the door and say, "Thanks," like I was a delivery guy dropping off a package. Some nights, when I was alone in the house, I found myself staring at nothing for longer than I'd like to admit, thinking about how we ended up here, wondering if it could have gone differently. I still had 100 questions I never asked, mostly because I didn't want to hear the answers. But they lived in my head anyway. Loud. Constant. Then one night, I did something I'm not proud of that I got in the truck and drove past her place that I didn't have a reason. I didn't expect to see anything. Part of me just wanted to know if I still existed in her world at all. I told myself I'd just pass by once. Quick glance. Just to see if the lights were on or if Emma's bike was on the balcony. Her car was in the lot. Parked in the third row, same spot she always used. But right next to it, there it was. That silver Audi, same make. Same tinted windows. Same rims. Same car I'd seen in our driveway that morning she told me she was running errands. I should have kept driving. I knew it. I felt like an idiot just pulling into the side street behind the building. But I parked anyway. Cut the headlights. Let the engine cool down. I was tucked behind a row of bushes, tucked far enough back not to be noticed. I sat there like a fool, watching the front entrance of her building, heart pounding, palms sweaty. 11:27 p.m. The door opened. They walked out together. Lena and him. He was laughing at something she said, his hand brushing against her back like it was second nature. She was dressed up. Makeup, heels, tight jeans, a leather jacket I'd never seen before. The kind of look she used to wear back when we were dating. When she still wanted to be noticed by me. They stopped by the cars. She turned toward him, still smiling, and he leaned in and kissed her. Not on the cheek. Not quick. It was slow. Familiar. Confident. She didn't resist. She kissed him back. That was it. That was all I needed to see that I didn't take a picture. Didn't get out. Didn't yell. I didn't even cry. I just sat there and watched them drive away like they were heading off into the kind of life she used to share with me. I stayed in that spot for a while. Maybe 30 minutes. Maybe more. I lost track. I just kept staring at that empty parking space where her car had been, trying to steady my breathing. It wasn't that I still thought she was innocent. Deep down, I'd stopped believing that a long time ago. But seeing it with my own eyes was different. It turned all the doubt into certainty. All those lies. All those times she made me feel like I was crazy. All those nights I stayed awake wondering if I was losing my mind. And there it was. Right in front of me. I hadn't imagined any of it. She wasn't tired. She wasn't confused. She wasn't just dancing. She was gone long before the divorce papers. I pulled out of the alley slow. No music. No noise. Just the sound of my tires on the cracked asphalt and the Dole Lake building behind my eyes. I didn't tell anyone what I'd seen. Not my buddy Nate, not my sister, not even my attorney. What would have been the point? The marriage was already over. Nothing left to fight for. But it changed something in me. That night, something settled, something quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a long, loud storm. You don't feel relief, just this weird, heavy stillness. A realization that everything you thought might still be fixable is already dust. That kiss, that one moment in the parking lot, answered every question I'd been dragging behind me for months. I didn't need explanations anymore. I already knew the truth. Last week, Lena sent me a message. Just one line. Can we meet? Just the two of us. I need to say something. I sat with it for a few hours before replying. The kind that keeps you up at night, clenches your jaw, makes you want to hit something. The kind you carry, not the kind you fight. I told her we could meet. No games. Just talk. We met at the little park near Emma's school. It was the same park where we used to take her when she was a toddler, back when life was simple and we thought we had time for everything. That's where I waited. She arrived right on time. She looked different. Not just in appearance, though she had no makeup on, her hair pulled back into a loose tie, dark circles under her eyes. But something in her posture had changed too. She didn't walk like someone who had something to prove. She walked like someone who was carrying regret. I stood up when she came closer. We didn't hug. Just sat down on the same bench, a few inches apart, hands in our laps, eyes on the ground. She took a deep breath, and then she spoke. I have to say this out loud, she said. I cheated on you. I lied. I manipulated you. I made you feel like you were going crazy, and I'm so sorry. I didn't respond. I wasn't sure what to say. The truth was, I already knew. I had known for a long time. But hearing her say it, finally, put a strange knot in my chest. Not pain exactly. Just confirmation. She kept going. I never stopped loving you, she said. I want you to believe that. But I hated how ordinary everything had gotten. It was like we were just going through the motions. And then this guy showed up, and he made me feel like I was still wanted. Like I still had some part of myself I'd forgotten. I still didn't say anything. I gave in, she whispered. I didn't think I'd lose everything. That's when I finally spoke. You didn't lose everything, I said. You still have Emma. But you lost me. She nodded slowly, like she'd already told herself the same thing 100 times. I know, she said. I know. I needed to say it out loud. You deserve that. We sat there in silence for a while. Lena stood up first. I'm not asking for anything, she said. I just wanted to be honest before too much time passed. She wiped a tear from her cheek. Not a dramatic cry. Just a quiet, sad gesture. Like someone tidying up after a storm that already destroyed the house. Thank you for meeting me, she added. Her voice soft. I nodded. She turned and walked away slowly, down the path past the swing set and toward the parking lot. No begging. No drama. Just a quiet exit. The kind that didn't need to be loud to be final. I sat on that bench for another 10 minutes before heading home. Emma was waiting, sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, reading a book with Max curled up beside her. She looked up and smiled when I walked in. Hi, Dad, she said. Simple. Warm. Safe. Hey, kiddo, I said, walking over and ruffling her hair. You hungry? A little. I went to the kitchen, pulled out a couple frozen waffles, and popped them into the toaster. As they cooked, I leaned on the counter and stared out the window at the backyard, the trees swaying gently, the birdhouse Emma and I had built still hanging crooked from the oak near the fence. Lena's confession hadn't changed anything. Not really. I'd already been living in the truth for a while. But hearing the words from her mouth, gave me something I didn't expect. Closure, not peace. Not forgiveness, but a kind of stillness. A point where the story stopped spinning. And for now, that was enough. Share your thoughts in the comments. Does telling the truth too late still count for anything? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.